Meaning is the emotion of fulfillment you derive from your purpose, right? If you feel that you have a purpose in your life, that is where you get your meaning from. And this can come from multiple different sources. Meaning is something, now, there's arguments about whether meaning is intrinsic or extrinsic. I'd say the best meaning comes intrinsically from the self and not from outside the self. And there are duty, right? Duty is extrinsic meaning. Is extrinsic purpose is duty. You have to have a duty towards your family, towards your right, towards your country. That is duty, right? That is the outside telling you what must happen and what you must do in order to be a good person or to fulfill a role in life. But intrinsic meaning is something you have discovered within yourself, and that is the meaning or the purpose that you wish to live your life for. So, how do you find intrinsic meaning in a world that is extrinsically meaningless unless you decide that that meaning, that the extrinsic meaning is your intrinsic meaning? Because from an existential point of view, the world has no meaning at all. It doesn't care. It's a careless universe that has no meaning, and you have to create that meaning. How do we go about creating meaning? Well, luckily, we don't have to figure that all out ourselves, right? We're born into the world, and the world kind of gives us meaning a little bit, right? In the way we're raised, in our inclinations of what we like, what we dislike, what we're passionate about, what we're intrinsically good at for just our brain chemistry or our particular personality, which are tied, but whatever we are good at, that is an inkling, right? That is an interest that we have, and that can help us discover the route towards meaning, right? Once we know this, we can start to create meaning. This is like the seed, right? But we don't know what the plant is yet, the whole plant, right? It's not like the plant is there and it's going to go and do that. And well, there's kind of a lot of stuff outside of our control, right? That actually imposes its meaning onto us, our purpose. It imposes our purpose onto us because we live in a certain point of time in a certain place, and there's certain things going on, and there's our inclinations that we have, right? That direct us towards this vague sense of purpose, right? So there's this vague sense of purpose that we have been directed towards. And now we have to mold it, right? This is like formless clay, right? We're given all this formless clay, and depending on the person, there's more and more clay that is more formed. Like let's say, you know, there's like this big path you can take. So there's like this much clay, right? Let's say you're interested in a lot of things. There's a lot of clay. Or there's only a little bit of clay and it's already kind of shaping itself out. It's kind of like got a base and a bit of this, and all you gotta do is kind of go rub your hands and smooth out the surface. And maybe you want like a weird dip here or something where it curves. But the point is, you are handed this clay, right? And if you think you're not handed clay, you're handed clay, right? And if you have no clay, well, then you get even more freedom than anybody else. If you're handed no clay, then you get to go mine the clay yourself, and you get to collect the clay from wherever you want. If that's the freedom you have, let's say you're like a trust fund baby, but you still like things. You still have inclinations, right? So you still have some clay, but you can go get other clay if you want, right? I'm using that as a metaphor, clay, because it's formless and you get to form it, right? That's the existential part, is that you get to form from existence. You get the clay, you get given your inclinations, you get given an environment, and then you can change that environment however you wish, right? And as you're going, because you don't know everything, right? You don't know everything you got yet. So then this is where it gets revealed to you. Then now that you're kind of molding the clay, and then let's say you had an idea, is you wanted this clay to be this certain structure. You just wanted it to be like a big pot, right? But then you see somewhere in the world, you see something else. You see a different kind of pot, and you're like, that's popping. Let's go get, I want to create that kind of pot, right? I already kind of did this, but I can kind of change it a little bit. And that's where it's revealed to you, because we learn as we go, right? We learn about our meaning, our purpose. We learn about it, right? So we take the raw material and now we have refined it a bit, and then we can refine it even more because since we refined it, we have grown as a person. And since we have grown as a person, now we get more direction, right? Because we're just directing the clay into a thing. And then we, as people, uncover the deeper parts of ourselves that we didn't realize, like our inclinations and stuff, have deeper parts, or even they change over time because now I'm in a different environment. Now I have different people, I have different influences. I intrinsically have changed since I created myself, now I'm a different self. So now I have different direction. So, and this is individuation, right? And imagine once you're done with one, right? Now you have more clay, and you keep doing this. And this is like Sisyphus going up the hill. You have your entire life. You're a potter. That is your whole job. You are the potter in this scenario. In this metaphor, you are the potter, and the clay is existence, and you have to mold it. And that is your purpose. The purpose is to create whatever kind of pots you want and any kind of pots you can. Like, let's say you only have this certain kind of clay, right? Let's say you want a different kind of clay, but you only have the certain kind of clay. You kind of have to work within your existence. Because to you, this clay over here is only a, a, a figment of your imagination. Let's say there's like, you got gray clay, but you know that there is red clay. And if you can go get that red clay because you want that red clay, you should go to the red clay. But if you can't, if you're just yearning, you absolutely sad, tragic story that you will never get the clay you want, then you got to work with the gray clay. You got to work with the gray clay. You're forced to. It doesn't really exist to you. It's a figment of your imagination in some faraway land of fairy dust. I don't know why that made me emotional. I guess this is a powerful metaphor about hopes and dreams. But you have to focus, right? If you really want to make some masterpiece, if you want to make some absolute masterpiece of a clay pot, if you want to make a masterpiece of your life, if you want your life to be art that you gifted to the world, right? And that's like Nietzschean philosophy. If you want to be a work of art that you have gifted to the world, you have to focus on your clay and the pot you're building. If you kind of do that and then you kind of like you're just playing with Play-Doh, right? If you destroy your meaning, your purpose, and you create a new one, and that's okay at first, right? But if you do that, if you spend all your life just playing with Play-Doh, you will never make a pot. That pot, or maybe you make a tiny pot. Like, you got this tiny pot, right? What is this? Fuck out of there, right? Unless you want that tiny pot and you don't really care, and world doesn't matter. There's no meaning. But I'm telling you how to get meaning. And then let's talk about extrinsic. There's the intrinsic, right? But let's talk about extrinsic. Let's say, as a man or as a woman, you want a partner, right? You have a duty to this partner. You want to provide for them. You want to help them achieve their aspirations. You want to help them make their own clay pot, right? Or you just want them not to starve. You can derive meaning. You can derive your purpose to serving this person, or even a higher goal. Let's say you're in a collapsing society, right? Um, I can get flack, but I can compare it to like Hitler, right? But Hitler went wrong. But like, let's say he was in a society that was falling apart. The German people historically was in a bad situation after World War One, and he thought his purpose was to rebuild society. He just went about it flawed. But I think you can see the parallel here as the duty, extrinsic duty out to service. Let's say he was a not dude who didn't go genocide people, right? He was just let's say like what's a good leader? Marcus Aurelius, right? Let's say you go to Marcus Aurelius, right? He had duty to the empire that he inherited, right? It was his duty. That was his purpose, was to lead the people of the Roman Empire. And he had to care for these people, right? He had to make sure they didn't die if he could, to whatever extent that he could control. He's the most powerful man in that point in history. He had to use his power wisely so that he may fulfill his purpose as the Roman Empire emperor in the Roman Empire, right? So that's extrinsic meaning, extrinsic purpose, right? But that was part of his clay, right? And he was a master potter. He was a master potter. And he struggled in all this, and it wasn't like he did this and maybe the clay fell down a little bit. I'm just going to keep with the clay metaphor as a potter. If you listen to Alan Watts, there's a parallel to the universe there. I could say God if you're feeling that kind of spiritual, but that's how you find purpose. You find what you want to build out of that clay. You find who the people, or you also can find the people who you want to help them build their clay. And that's extrinsic, right? If you were a singular event, all you would do would be a potter. But let's say you run the business for the pottery shop, right? And you're helping people who like to do pottery. You're helping them find their purpose and their meaning, and you can derive meaning from that. But that is just part of your pot that was given to you. It's part of your clay. It's part of the extrinsic purpose that was handed to you for you to make something into. It's hard to be a potter, to be a good potter. Everybody can play with Play-Doh. Anybody could just fuck around and live and die and get shit and eat. Or you can do something with your life.